Now on KOAM News at 5, we'll hear from an area health expert on how the pandemic has impacted sleep for many Americans.
I'm Jason Allen in Baytown, Texas. I'll show you the damage Nicholas did with flooding rains, hurricane-strength winds, and a dangerous storm surge coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
More people are getting less sleep during the pandemic. This is KOAM News at 5. The National Institutes of Health says 40% of people have had some kind of sleep problem during the pandemic. Local health experts say losing sleep can cause a variety of physical and mental issues. Those include poor performance at work or school because of the inability to concentrate. It can affect your mood and rational and critical thinking. They say anyone can experience insomnia, and that can make it more difficult, make life more difficult for people who are dealing with mental illness.
The misery factor goes up anytime you can't sleep. The worry about going to sleep actually increases. It becomes a serious thing for them to deal with, and it decreases their daily function, increases their symptoms overall.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear from mental health experts on what happens when you can't sleep and what you can do to try to catch some Z's. A pest is causing damage to lawns across the 4 states. Officials say army worms are spreading across the area, rapidly eating large amounts of grass. Army worms are actually caterpillars that reproduce in large quantities and spread over a field like an army. They feed primarily on Bermuda grass, ryegrass, fescue, bluegrass, and some crops.
The moths get blown from the south. The moths lay eggs lots of times on the side of your house, shop, fence, and the leaves of the trees. And when the eggs hatch, the worms fall and start munching on the grass. And then you start to see the grass declining and being destroyed.
Experts say one of the most effective ways to prevent their spread is to just be aware and take action quickly if you notice any problems. Nick Kelly joins us now with a first look at the weather.
Good evening, Doug. We had a pretty quiet day so far. We're still looking quiet from 7th and range line, but you can see in the northerly horizon clouds really picking up. That's because we actually are seeing Mother Nature jump the gun in terms of getting our chances for rain and storms going ahead of schedule. You can see we got a developing line of rain and then even a couple of thunderstorms stretching from the Harry-Tune Reservoir, Nevada, Pawnee, back to Chanute, and then working back south of Greenwood County. That is where our frontal system is, and you can see how it's going to keep the more potent severe weather out to the west across south central and southwestern Kansas. But temperatures right now, if you're north of the front, you're mainly in the 80s, but most of us are still sitting right around 90 degrees. The name of the game for the rest of the evening now is rain chances picking up, temperatures going from the 80s, upper 80s, to about 68 overnight. We'll see what these storms will leave behind when we get to the full forecast here in a bit.
See you then. Tropical storm Nicholas is moving very slowly over southeastern Texas and the Louisiana coast. Made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane last night about 100 miles southwest of Houston. More than 100,000 homes and businesses in that region are without power, and life-threatening flash floods are a big concern. Reporter Jason Allen has the latest.
Kayakers paddled down the middle of the street in Clear Lake Shores, Texas, surveying flooded businesses, destroyed docks, and downed power lines. Nicholas crashed ashore as a Category 1 hurricane, packing powerful wind gusts of up to 75 miles an hour. The storm is still dumping significant amounts of rain in the region. Galveston has gotten more than a foot, and the Houston area 7 inches. Southwest of Galveston, some streets and yards are submerged. Forecasters say there is the potential for even more flooding because Nicholas is slowing and could stall at some point. Power is also out to tens of thousands of homes and businesses. Yesterday, residents prepared for the long haul and even parked cars on a freeway overpass to keep them out of floodwater. Houston's mayor says the city should be back to normal by tomorrow.
This storm could have been a lot worse for the city of Houston. I think we fared fairly well. The good news is that there were no injuries reported and there were no fatalities.
The storm is now headed for Louisiana, where thousands are still struggling to recover from Hurricane Ida. The governor has already declared a state of emergency as storm-weary residents prepare once again. Jason Allen, CBS News, Baytown, Texas.
The National Weather Service predicts there could be a tornado or two along the upper Texas and Louisiana coast. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was back in the hot seat today, spending more than 3.5 hours defending the Biden administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan. Many of the questions focused on the 100 or so Americans and thousands of Afghan allies who have not made it out. Secretary Blinken says officials are in contact constantly with the Americans still in Afghanistan, and he says the government did what it could to get everyone out. Haiti's top prosecutor is seeking charges against the Prime Minister Ariel Henry in connection with the assassination of the late President Jovenel Moïse. He also has barred the Prime Minister from leaving that country. The prosecutors cited evidence that a key suspect in the assassination called Henry in the hours after the murder. The investigation into the July 7th killing is ongoing and has turned up dozens of suspects, including U.S. and Colombian citizens. California voters headed to the polls today to decide whether to replace Governor Gavin Newsom. Under recall rules, a majority of voters must vote yes to oust Governor Newsom. If that happens, the top vote getter among challengers will become governor. 8 million mail-in ballots have already been cast in that election, leading some Republicans to raise questions over voter fraud. Former President Trump calling the election totally rigged. Still ahead, the latest devices coming out of the tech world.
Apple is out with its new iPhone. I'm Naomi Ruckham with how it stacks up to other devices, including the new Samsung Fold 3.
And next in Health Watch, U.S. health officials work to evaluate data on the best plan for COVID vaccine booster shots. Topping today's Health Watch, while hospitals in parts of the country struggle to keep up with the number of COVID-19 patients, the government is evaluating data to determine if Americans should get a booster shot. Other countries are already making the move for parts of their population. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
Emergency departments in hard-hit areas are overwhelmed with COVID patients.
We lost 5 patients yesterday.
Teresa King is the ICU nurse supervisor at Cape Coral Hospital in Florida.
There's no time to wait. There's people waiting for the beds before it even happens.
In Alabama, where only about 40% are fully vaccinated, ICU beds have reached capacity.
We've got patients on ventilators in hallways.
More than 300 additional Kentucky National Guard members have been sent to serve in logistical roles at hospitals across that state, trying to relieve some of the burden. While some states struggle to get even a first dose in people's arms, Friday, an FDA advisory committee will hold a meeting to discuss Pfizer's application for a booster shot. This comes as 2 outgoing FDA officials questioned the need for a third shot, telling The Lancet widespread boosting should be undertaken only if there is clear evidence that it is appropriate. It's a position that puts them at odds with the FDA, top Biden administration health officials, and outside medical experts.
I think it's inappropriate for current FDA officials to write an op-ed based on their ideas.
CBS medical contributor Dr. David Agus says new data coming out of Israel makes a convincing case. The country approved a booster shot for 60 and older in late July.
I've talked to health officials there, and it's clear that immunity goes down on a monthly basis, and giving a booster shot raises immunity 4 to 10-fold.
The UK announced starting next week it will offer booster shots for people over 50 and the vulnerable. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Israel recently expanded its booster program to include anyone over age 12. A new study in the British Journal of Ophthalmology links certain eye conditions with an increased risk of dementia. Researchers followed more than 12,000 adults for as long as 15 years. They found a 26% higher risk of dementia in those with age-related macular degeneration, 11% higher risk with cataracts, and 61% higher risk with diabetes-related eye disease. Prominent store displays of e-cigarettes and smoking paraphernalia may undermine the effectiveness of banning tobacco displays to discourage the habit. Researchers in Great Britain looked at shops in 2 cities and found the vast majority that sell tobacco out of view had highly visible displays of vaping products and cigarette lighters. A paper in the Journal of the European Economic Association found people tend to listen to those who tell them what they want to hear and ignore things they'd prefer not to be true. Researchers say the findings support theories about biased beliefs in the age of social media and the internet. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, the Labor Department releases the latest consumer price index numbers.
Before that, we have thunderstorm chances picking up as we speak. We'll see how long they'll stick around when we come back. We kept things pretty quiet so far today, and temperatures have been still a bit on the hot side, but at least a little bit cooler compared to where we were yesterday. We topped out at 93, 94 for the afternoon high in Joplin Regional yesterday, but after we dropped back into the lower 70s, at least so far, we made it to about 91 at Joplin Regional. A little bit cooler thanks to our frontal system, which has actually jumped ahead of schedule and already started to fire off some scattered rain and storms in northern parts of the viewing area. So let's just go ahead and zoom right in. Nothing really strong, nothing severe out there, but you can't deny that as the front continues to work on in, we're definitely seeing this area of rain and storms line up. You can see them stretching from Howard over to Fredonia, Erie, Chanute, a little broken up as you pass south of Uniontown, but it picks up around Fort Scott, a little broken again before you see some more intense activity, at least stronger thunderstorms over the Harry Truman Reservoir in eastern parts of St. Clair County. That's the beginning of our thunderstorm chances that'll continue through the rest of the evening and even into the overnight. But at least in Joplin, we just have a look at some of those storms in the far northern horizon, but we're dry in the city. 90 degrees, feels like 91 with the dew point sitting at 63, so we are noticing a bit of a bump in the dew points to help support these thunderstorm chances that are developing. North of the front, you're mainly in the 80s. Everybody else is right around the 90-degree mark at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. And you can see the overall trend for the evening. The thunderstorm chances and the cloud cover as well continuing to pick up. Temperatures will go from the upper 80s at 6 down to 70 by midnight. And I think most of us will be in the mid to upper 60s as we start today with more of these rain and thunderstorm chances, some of which are developing out across south central and southwestern parts of Kansas. All of this because this frontal boundary is finally beginning to work on in since we broke down the upper level ridge that kept us dry for quite some time. And of course, we see a potent upper level wave helping to aid in these thunderstorm chances and help push this front through. So what does that mean for the next couple days? We're going to hold on to these rain chances not only as we go through the evening, but we're expecting a gradual increase in the activity as we go through late tonight and into Wednesday morning. Now, I'm expecting our thunderstorm chances to be mainly on the strong side, mainly heavy rain. Can't rule out a couple of storms producing some minor wind gusts and maybe some small hail. But again, you see how the better shots for severe weather will stay west and well to the northeast of the region. But this could certainly bring some heavy rain our way to force temperatures down into the middle to upper 60s. But once we get past Wednesday morning, that's it for our rain chances with this system. We'll start clearing out during the afternoon. And temperatures, we'll see a nice drop in temperatures with lower humidity as well. 68 in the morning, 79 by noon, afternoon highs topping out right around 85 degrees. In terms of how much rain we could expect, it all depends on how the heavy rain sets up and tracks on through. On the average though, I would say a fair guesstimate, a fair range will be as low as 1/10 of an inch to maybe an inch and a half. Can't rule out some heavier pockets of rain though, if they can really materialize and track over the same areas. But again, these rain chances will knock us back to 85 for Wednesday, 87 on Thursday. Once the front skedaddles though, Dow, we have to have the late summer heat work back in here. Lower 90s to start the weekend out. Maybe not rain chance Monday, but summer is not quite over yet.
That's one more reason why we could use some rain tomorrow and get the chance.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Nick. Coming up, check out the latest devices announced by tech giants Apple and Samsung. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Max Llewellyn served in the U.S. Army from 1953 to 1955. The Altoona, Kansas native was stationed in Korea, and we salute Staff Sergeant Max Llewellyn, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, the cost of living in the U.S. rose in August. According to the Labor Department, the Consumer Price Index edged up 0.3% last month, and annually prices are up 5.3%. Both numbers were less than expected. The bleeding on the country's balance sheet rose in August. According to the Treasury Department, the budget deficit rose to $2.71 trillion. That pushed the nation's shortfall on track to be the second largest in history. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting that the annual deficit will total $3 trillion this year. That would be an improvement from last year. It could soon be easier for millions of renters with little to no credit to become homeowners. Starting Saturday, Fannie Mae will consider the most recent 12-month rent payment histories when lenders run their automated credit check. The mortgage giant will seek to get permission to check renters' payment records from their bank accounts or electronic services like PayPal and Venmo. Apple released a number of new devices today, including a new iPad and Apple Watch. The most anticipated item is the new iPhone. Naomi Ruckham tells us about the latest features.
We are thrilled to introduce our next generation of iPhone.
Apple CEO Tim Cook used a virtual event to show off the new iPhone 13. There are no major changes, but the 5G device offers a faster processor and longer battery life. There's also an updated camera that records video in cinematic mode, and the company says pictures are even sharper.
Brighter results in your photos and videos.
How big are iPhone sales for the company?
The iPhone is still Apple's most important product, right? It represents about half of the company's revenue.
CNET's Ian Scher says the camera has become a huge selling point for all smartphone companies.
The features we've seen in the last few years are built around being able to take better photos, being able to take photos that look very professional.
Apple's main competitor in smartphone sales is Samsung. Last month, the company revealed its latest version of the Galaxy phone, which unfolds into a larger device. The Galaxy Z Fold 3 comes with 5G and an $1,800 price tag, which is actually cheaper than last year's $2,000 version. Samsung also has a $1,000 new Flip 3 that can fold in half.
This is the Pixel 5a with 5G.
The recently released 5A is Google's cheaper phone, priced at $450. The company is expected to unveil a brand new Pixel 6 later this fall.
These are the best iPhones we've ever created.
Prices for the new iPhone lineup are the same as last year.
Because the design hasn't changed much, reality is keeping the prices around where they are is good business decision for them.
The new phones will be available on September 24th. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
Yesterday, Apple sent out an alert urging customers to do a software update on their current phones, watches, and other devices as soon as possible. Researchers found a security flaw that may allow hackers to steal data. And hey Alexa, scan me in. Amazon says it's launching palm recognition technology at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Denver and other venues soon after. The technology, dubbed Amazon One, allows event goers to sign up to connect their palm to an account that will then just let them scan their hand at events. A final check of the forecast next. The CBS Evening News is next. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more from area health experts on how the pandemic has affected sleep. Plus, new numbers show an increase in poverty nationwide. We're going to hear from area charitable organizations. And Missouri Southern receives a $25,000 grant to research food insecurity in the area. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News, then KOAM News at 6. Look at that. A rare sight captured off the coast of Australia, a megapod of humpback whales, more than 100 strong, was caught on camera surrounding a boat near a town south of Sydney in New South Wales. A tour company was leading a training exercise when the whales appeared, slapping their tails on the water, herding fish in a feeding frenzy. The company's owner says the migrating whales he's seen this year have been feeding a lot more, possibly due to a shortage of food. He also said such a mass megapod of humpbacks has been seen only once before in that country's waters. If you've ever been on a whale watching expedition, you know what a thrill it is to see one whale, doubly so to see several, and to see 100 in a megapod.
That's just amazing.
It is indeed. Chances of rain tonight.
Yeah, they're ramping up as we speak, and they'll continue up until Wednesday morning. Behind these rain chances, though, we'll enjoy highs near 85 on Wednesday and 87 on Thursday. But once you hit the weekend, though, back into the 90s we go.
Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. We'll see you then. Let's make it a great evening.